So verse 7, it says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened. So to end up in a mess, you have to deliberately choose to get there. Now think about this. First of all, he has a thought. He then takes that thought and then he arrives at a place which gives him more chance of seeing that thought become a reality, because it's deliberate, you see? And as we seek things, not just God, when we seek things, which probably starts with a thought, there's a deliberate process that enables us. So when we think, how did I get to this place? How did I end up in this mess? Well, it started with a thought that became a deliberate action that put you to where you are now. Thoughts are always going to come, okay? Things are always going to drop in. Some of us have got past lives where there's stuff that is there that we can see. And there's sometimes just a randomness of the stuff that can just come from anywhere and end up in here. That's not the problem. It's what we do with it next that is. Maybe the thoughts we have are simple starters, like, I'm not good enough. Maybe it starts off as something so simple, it's just like, I'm not good enough. You know that thought? You know, like I said earlier, that thought that could just come into your mindset in that moment? It's what you do with it next. It's not that it won't come in there, it's what you do with it next. Maybe it's, I hate myself. Just that thought that can come, man, I just hate myself. Maybe you're looking in the mirror one day. Or maybe you feel like, maybe it could be something simple like, maybe I'll text him back. It's just a thought. It's not become anything in that moment. And that text that has been sent to you from whoever it may be is not coming from a good place, with good intentions, and probably from someone that is honoring God. And you know it. And the choice is, it's on there, and you have this incredible button called delete. And yet what we do is we start typing. It just started with a thought. It just started with something arriving. But now I'm in a mess. I wonder what would happen if I clicked on that website. You know what the website says. You can see it. The having it presented to you is not the problem. You had to put it into action to get the mouse or your finger or whatever it was and click. You had to do that then to access something that was then going to take you down a darker path and end up in a mess. There's a saying, isn't there, that if you're not full of God, then you're probably full of yourself. If Jesus is not on your boat, if Jesus is not in your vessel, if Jesus is not in you, you're probably full of you. And you doesn't do you any good. Because the truth is actually, we do this all the time as Christians. And if anyone doesn't, then you're either Jesus or a liar. Okay? Because the reality is we do choose to do it our own way. At times, there are times when we say, God, I've got this. Or God says, you can do this. Can you go do this thing for me? And you're like, no, I'm not going that way, God. I'm going this way. Literally the opposite way. We all do it. So this isn't just about, oh, is Jesus in your boat now? Are you secure in your salvation? Are you on the narrow path? You know, it's not just about that. It's about you can still choose to put yourself in a ridiculous mess and still be on the narrow path. Still have your eternity assured. But as Christians, you can still make dumb decisions. Do you know that? We have Jesus to help us make less dumb decisions, but we're still human beings that are still going to do things like Jonah. Your sinful actions do not just impact you. When you run from God, it's not just you who suffers. Sin has consequences. These men were just sailors on their way to Tarshish. Yet the sin of one man, firstly, puts their lives in danger, yeah? But probably way worse than that is that they then had to live for the rest of their lives with the thought, did we just kill a man? When that thought becomes an action, it leads to consequences that impact and affect others. Think about it. It was just a thought. Oh, do I do what God tells me to do, or shall I run in the opposite direction? It's just a thought. Is it a yes? It's a yes or no answer. Do I go God's way, or do I not? He chose no. Look at the consequences. Look at how it impacted not just his own life, but others around him. None of us here are perfect. But you know what? I'm feeling more and more challenged in my daily walk with God to just try to take that thought and not let it become anything that God doesn't want it to become. Because you will find what you seek. Just a quick question, just a thing for you guys to think on for a second. Is Jesus in your boat, or is it full of you? Don't you love it when God prepares the way? Yeah? Don't you love it when God prepares things for us? Jesus says, right? He says, I'm going, but I'm going to go and prepare a place for you. Like, I'm thinking, what wallpaper is he picking for my house? You know, like he's preparing a place for me to go and be in. Wow. Don't you love it when God prepares something for you? Yeah? Yeah? No? Just me? Yeah? So, no? Oh, yeah. Brilliant. Verse 17. Now the Lord prepared a great fish to swallow Jonah. Don't you love it when the Lord prepares things for us? You sure? When we go down the route that we go down, when we choose to come away from God and we do it our own way, God is preparing stuff for us, but it ain't gonna be that great. Because it's what he needs to do to steer you back to where you started. How can God fill us fully with him when we empty ourselves of ourselves? And sometimes we've just got to die. Sometimes we just got to be brought to this place so that we can die, that he might live. If we seek but not God's way, if we ask for something that's not from God, and if we knock on a door that isn't God's, who's answering? But if it ain't God on the other end of that door, why do you want to open it? Why do you want to go the other side of it? Why do you want to seek it? I'm saying, why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why is it that even though we know God is not at the other end of what we seek, we still seek it? Why is it that when we know that God is not at the other end of what we're asking, we still ask for it? And why is it that we knock on doors that are not God's? We do this. Okay, so if we're not knocking on the right door, what can be the wrong door? Lacking self-worth. A door that has a label on it that says lacking self-worth. That might have things like hating yourself, feeling inadequate, not feeling good enough, incapable of believing that anyone can love you. All lies, yet there's a door that exists. According to the word of God, all lies, or all things we shouldn't do, hating yourself is the opposite of what God asks us to do. Yeah, love yourself is what he says. So it's either something we shouldn't be doing, or it's a lie. And we're believing the lie, and we can knock on the door of that. And what's at the other end of it? Self-hatred. For some, maybe self-harm. You become isolated, alone. You will create a place for yourself that leads you away from who God says you are. It leads us to a dark place, a place of dark thoughts, a place that ends up controlling and manipulating us into feeling that way and accepting that that is just the norm. Maybe that's one of the doors. Maybe one of the doors says lust. This can be the same for drugs, drink, watching movies that you shouldn't, hanging out with crowds that you shouldn't. This door can be any of those things. It's labeled, it's there. But you have to do something for it to be opened. You have to knock. I'm in a room, my life, and there's a door to an area of things that are not meant to be opened to me anymore. But it's still there. God doesn't take the door away. It's still there. But I still have to put into action. Let's say I'm in the middle of the room. I still have to put into action to walk over to the door and knock on whatever label of door that is. When people say I didn't have a choice, yes, you did. Because the thought might start here. Ooh, lust. Maybe you're with someone. Look over there. And suddenly you're right where you shouldn't be. And now you've got closer. You've just got to knock. When you're here and it's just a thought, you can try knocking. But unless is it like Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four with stretchy arms? You can't knock that door. You have to move into the place to be able to access for that door to be open to you. It's a choice, but it starts with a thought. Revelation 3 verse 20, it says, behold, this is Jesus. Behold, I stand at the door and I knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and dine with him and he with me. The room is your life. Okay. We've already spoke about this door, yeah? Whatever that door is for you. And do you know what? This is another thing. That door says lust on it right now. God can deliver you from that, yeah? So suddenly that label it's got no power on you. You can have it come at you always, and it's like, I don't need to go and knock on that door. It doesn't bother me anymore. But it will become a different label because Satan will find another thing. Yeah? So actually, it's not just like, oh, that's going to be the door that's going to be there for the rest of your life. That door can be conquered. And for that door to be opened, you have to knock, okay? All right? Now picture this. You're in a room now. There's not just one door. There's two doors. There's another door here, okay? There's another door here. And one is labeling, the one we've just spoken about, lacking self-worth. I'm unlovable. Addiction, lust, sex, failure. That door has some horrific labels on it, but they only have power if first you allow the thought to become an action, and then that action to become a knocking that will then allow that door to be opened. It's a promise. Now this door, it looks good. And you know what? It's a wide door too. And it looks good. But on the other side of the room, there is a door and there is a knocking. Now this one, you've got to knock on. You've got to actually knock on this door and this door will be open to you. But on this one, it ain't you that's knocking. Maybe it gets more urgent because you are moving this way and suddenly it's like, yeah, because you're actually a little bit closer to doing your own knocking. But maybe you missed this because I missed it the first time I read it. Not only is Jesus knocking, listen, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice. Jesus isn't just trying to get you away from here by knocking. He's calling you by name. And he's probably doing this as you walk to the place of lacking self-worth and feeling I hate myself. I'm not worthy. How can anyone love me? He is knocking. And he's also saying, I love you. You're worthy. You're worthy. I created you for a purpose. Just please Please don't walk back this way. And there's a choice. There's a choice here. Do we knock on what is easy, or do we open what is hard? Because this door, by the way, is narrow. But the preciousness is not in the path or in the door. It's who you're on, who's on the other side of the door. Because on the other side of this one, yes, it's the one that leads to destruction. But this one has life. And for some reason, this one is so much harder to open than it is to knock on this one. You are in a place where you can do what is easier, what is more pleasing to the flesh. You can knock on that door and you don't even have to open it. You don't even have to turn the handle. You need to knock it. Satan, lust, is on the other side of this door waiting for your knock, and it's like, come in, child. Come in and enjoy everything I have for you. Satan is absolutely waiting for you to knock. He's at that door hoping, but he has no power. Think. He can't open the door unless you knock. So when we knock, we have to clench our fist. Yeah? We have to clench our fist. We have to put our hand into an action to then put it into this action. Jesus is knocking on the door, but instead of having a clenched fist, maybe we're angry. Maybe we're just tired. Maybe we're just fed up. Oh, clenching the fist, what it represents. I'm just so angry, God. And God is saying, let me have that. Open your hand. And now you can open the door. Because you can't. Has anyone ever tried opening the door with a fist? Try it when you go home. You're going to look like a fool. Make sure someone videos it and sends it to me. But this is a representation of what we do, our holding everything in. The pain and the hurt, the abuse, the anger, all the things that might lead us to this door are here. And all I've got to do is already there, because life has done it to me. And I'm ready to knock. I'm ready to knock because life hurts. Life isn't fair. All I've got to do is knock, and I can end my life. All I've got to do is knock, and I can be in a relationship that will meet my flesh. All I've got to do is knock, and I can hate myself for the rest of my life. Because I'm so angry. I'm so upset. And Jesus is saying, just let go. Now you can open the door. Now you can open the door. And he's knocking. I don't know who needs to hear this message today, but I believe it's for everyone. But I believe it might be for someone who is in this place right now, and they're edging more to that door than they are to that one. God says, come on, let go. Open the door and let me in. How does this start? How do we end up in the cave? How do we end up being thrown overboard? How do we end up knocking on doors that we shouldn't be knocking on? How do we get there? I'll tell you how. Scientifically proven. It's called stupidity. Some of the dumbest reasons for why we end up in the darkest of places start with the dumbest thought. Don't we end up in some of the darkest places that when we retrace our steps, you think, man, that was the dumbest reason. That was the dumbest reason. So I want to say to you, if you're in this belly of the fish, or you're being thrown overboard, or you're just starting on the journey to pay your fare to get away from God's plan, I want to say to you, there is a God that loves you. His mercy and His grace and His loving kindness are abundant for you. This is not a condemning message. This is a message of hope. To say you may be in the dark right now, but God is making a way, and you might not like what He's preparing, but it will set you back on track. And this is a serious question to ask yourself, because It's not just something you should just say yes to. It's something you need to say yes to because you believe it. Is your life no longer yours? Think about it. Is your life no longer yours? This isn't my life. It's not mine. It's not my life. This isn't yours. This is actually not yours. You know that? When you accepted Jesus into your life and you chose to follow him all the rest of your days, this, which you say, oh, it's just this battlefield, which it is still his. If you surrender this more to him, it will be less of a battlefield. But if you see it as yours, you're going to be battling a lot more than you should. This is not yours. If you're being governed by this, your way, there's a lot of feeling that gets involved. And not always good. But if it's God's heart, is this his or is it someone else's? Is this his or is it someone else's? Is this your feet and your hands, the action? Is it his or is it yours? If we don't get hold of this understanding that God is God, like God is God. I've just told you he's an incredible God because he's knocking at the door and he's calling you by name and he wants to come into your life and he wants to have fellowship with you and he loves you and he loves you and he loves you. I can't say it more than that. But he's also God on high, the most high God. The earth is his footstool. We are like ants. He is mighty and he is great. We can't just open the door to Jesus and all the lovely things that come with what he brings. We also have to accept that he is God and that this is no longer yours. But it's not mine. It's not my body. It's not my thoughts. It's his thoughts. My thoughts aren't his thoughts. My ways aren't his ways. It will change your life if you can get hold of this. When he says something and he's God in your life and he says it and he mic drops you, he's not looking for a debate and he's not asking for you to question it. He's just asking for you to believe it and maybe to do it. Is he that God to you? Just a question. Is he that God to you? Where he can drop the mic and you're not there going, yeah, but you didn't listen to my opinion on it, Lord. I dropped the mic so that you can move on. There's nothing else here to say. I've already pointed out that your mind is not in the right place. Your heart is not in the right place. Let's sort that out first. Yeah? He leaves it with an unanswered question because that's our God. Because he should have the final word.